This is my presentation on fatigue and recovery. Different exercise types will cause different reactions from the body. Lighter exercise, such as a brisk walk or jog around the park, will have less of an effect on the muscles than a marathon, which requires more energy from the muscles, and there will be a lower fatigue rate in the lighter exercise due to the less demanding nature of it. Muscle fatigue is the lowered ability of muscles to generate force, which therefore reduces the ability to perform well in exercise. There are two main causes of muscle fatigue. One is caused by the limitations of a nerve's ability to generate a sustained signal to the muscles, and another is caused by the reduced ability of the muscle fibers to contract. Higher intensity exercise, such as a marathon, will cause much higher rate in muscle fatigue due to its more demanding nature. When the activity goes on for a long time, the factors which cause fatigue in the muscles, mainly by the lack of good oxygen supply to the muscles over a long period of time, will cause fatigue because the muscles do need oxygen to gain energy to contract correctly and prevent fatigue. With a lack of oxygen, the distribution of it is lower and it's harder to get the muscle contraction to a good level, which therefore causes fatigue. Furthermore, a lack of oxygen can cause the body to convert to its anaerobic stores, which don't require oxygen to work. However, for this reason, it does cause a build-up in lactic acid in the muscles, and therefore this will cause fatigue. In the shorter type of sporting activity, such as shot put or javelin, the muscles are not being demanded on for that long, and therefore there is a lower and slower rate of the side effects of exercise exhaustion on the muscles, and they will fatigue at a slower rate than a longer held exercise, such as a marathon or cross-country races, which give a longer amount of time for the oxygen deprivation and lactate build-up. For the exercise which causes higher fatigue, such as long-distance runners and swimmers, there will be a longer recovery period in order to remove the waste products from the muscles, such as lactic acid, which has built up in the muscles during the exercise and caused the muscle to fatigue. In contrast, less demanding, shorter types of exercise will have a faster recovery due to a lower fatigue rate of the muscles and less lactate build-up to be removed. The length and intensity of the exercise does affect fatigue in giving it a higher rate of occurring, whereas a shorter type of exercise will have less side effects due to them being more oxygen and therefore less fatigue. There are three types of muscles fatigue. One of them is local fatigue. This is localized in muscles and used from repeated contractions without any recovery. Another type of general fatigue, this happens from post-training and it makes you feel physically or psychologically weak, and this is what many athletes will experience. The final type is chronic fatigue, and this is a weakened immune system from the excessive overtraining and inadequate recovery. As seen in the graph of how the total distance of a marathon affects pace, we can see that they work at quite a fast and constant pace at the beginning, as the muscles haven't yet fatigued and the pace can remain relatively fast, as there is no strain on them. However, from around 20 miles as seen on this graph, the pace begins to increase as they get much slower due to the fatigue build-up on the muscles. There's a sharp decrease in pace. However, at the end, as they get faster at the end due to the last-minute sprint to the finishing line, but after the marathon, because it was a long exercise and physically demanding, the muscles did fatigue, and they will need to remove the lactic acid there, and recovery will be required, which can be helped by a cool down, which allows the heart to remain pumping, and therefore the blood to pick up the lactic acid as a waste product and remove it. As this is a marathon, it is a long exercise, and therefore there is a higher fatigue rate as seen in the graph. However, if this was a sprint, the level of pace would probably remain very fast and not change much, as fatigue isn't as common. A longer distance exercise type, such as a marathon, as we can see, will cause a higher rate of fatigue due to its longer and more demanding nature, and higher levels of energy are needed for a larger amount of time compared to a shot put athlete who requires a quick burst of energy in order to perform, but this doesn't have to be withheld for a long time, so therefore there'll be a lower rate of fatigue due to the lack of conversion to the anaerobic stores. Examples of maximal intensity and very short exercises are javelin and 400-meter sprints. Being a short-term time exercise doesn't mean that they don't require a lot of strength from the muscles in order for a good performance in this short burst of high level energy requiring activity. Maximal intensity activities such as the previous sporting examples and cross-country running require a lot of energy in order for this particular sport to be performed to the best of their ability. The neuromuscular system requires the fast glycolytic system, which are known as the intermediate fibers. They are fast-twitch muscle fibers which are required during high-intensity exercises and endurance training. These fibers are large in diameter, which allow a large surface area for muscle connection to contract. They have more mitochondria, which is important as these types of sport require a lot of energy for large muscle contraction, and so more ATP can be produced for power in the muscles. Maximal intensity and very short activities need very fast reaction times, as there has to be a larger amount of muscle power generated from the beginning in order for the highest level of performance. For example, in a 400-meter sprint, the pace will begin very fast, and an athlete will have to go from standing still to sprinting quickly. This is when the fast twitch fibers are important, as they can generate an immediate energy, and therefore the runner can start and end at a fast pace. These types of demanding activity require the ATP and PC stores, which provide immediate energy through the breakdown of these stored high-energy phosphates, and therefore the energy can be maintained at a high level for the shorter exercise and provide a good amount of energy in maximum for a good effective muscle contraction. However, when there is a ATP and PC depletion, there are two anaerobic energy stores which are required, because when there is no more ATP and PC stores, which can only be used when there is oxygen, this mainly will happen in maximal activity when there will be a lack of oxygen. There are two anaerobic energy stores which may be used. The glycolytic or lactic acid system might be used, which use carbohydrates stored in the muscles as glycogen, where they are turned into energy for the activity to occur due to the new boost of energy. As a result of these systems, there might be a build up in lactic acid as a waste product, which therefore will cause fatigue in the muscles. It needs to be removed from the body after exercise, which can be helped by a small amount of cool down exercise, such as a slow lap around the track after a 400-meter sprint, in order to keep the heart pumping at a reasonable rate, in order for the blood plasma to transport it away as a large amount has built up and will cause pain, cramp, and fatigue. Furthermore, they will need a little bit of slower exercise in order just for the oxygen to come back into the body and be spread around. Doing exercise will keep the heart pumping, and therefore the hemoglobin can transport oxygen back around the body to the muscles where the ATP can be restored. These types of energy store will cause the generation and tolerance of acidosis, which is a high level of acid in the body, which causes an imbalance of the body's pH. This needs to be balanced after exercise, such as javelin, in order to prevent health problems. When doing these exercises, the ATP and PC stores mean that they have a lower level of fatigue due to the fact that oxygen is used in these energy stores, and therefore the muscles will have oxygen. However, if it converts to the anaerobic stores, then they can work without oxygen, but they produce lactic acid as a product, which therefore will cause fatigue for the muscles. However, this may not happen in shorter exercise, as they might just keep the ATP and PC stores, as there will still be a good supply of oxygen occasionally. This is the same for maximal exercise. It may go on for longer, and therefore there'll be a lack of oxygen. The body might therefore require to convert to the anaerobic stores, which could lead to muscle fatigue. For maximal intensity and very short duration activity, ATP and PC deprivation, depletion of PC contributes to the rapid decline in power output observed during such exercise. Fatigue occurs when the muscles are running low on ATP and PC stored, because this is how they initially get their energy. However, due to the nature of the exercise, there will be a lack of oxygen, which will therefore decrease the amount of ATP produced by the mitochondria, which is when the body may have to convert into its aerobic stores into the anaerobic ones, which could produce lactic acid and other waste products, which therefore could lead to fatigue of the muscles, as they were working at a high level of power with a lower amount of oxygen present. The fatigue in these types of exercises can be reduced and avoided. One way of doing this is taking creatine supplements. After taking them, fatigues will still occur, and reduction in power in the middle and after exercise will still happen, but there is a relatively higher work achieved, which is the power given off, than there would be at the stage of exercise when the muscles began to fatigue without the creatine supplements. It is increased by the creatine supplements, as they has been scientifically proven to help muscle cells produce more energy. They support many other functions in the muscles, and they improve high intensity exercise performance and speed up muscle growth, which all will lead to a higher performance. As you can see in the graph bottom right, the striped bar will show the controlled groups without the creatine supplements, and the blocked black group will shows those who have taken the supplements, and it shows that over the time the ones who took the supplements show a total work increase at a higher rate, and therefore shows that the supplements do increase the power given off by the muscles. Another way in which fatigue can be avoided is known as the recovery ratio. It's the amount of time the person will spend working versus the amount of time they'll spend recovering. As long as we know this, you can work out how long you need to recover. For example, when you perform 60 seconds of work followed by 60 seconds of recovery, your recovery ratio is 1 to 1, and therefore you are renewing your muscles and the fatigue will go away. So as long as you know how long you worked, you can work out how long you need for recovery.